much for joining us and welcome to the 2:30 Conversations. Again, I want to apologize to the Facebook family. We were supposed to start about 2:30, but there was a delay a bit here. But our pastor is here, who's going to be taking us through the program today as we talk about politics and religion. My name is Untitled and I will be your host for today. Just want to give over the announcements very quickly right now. Then immediately after the announcements, we can start off with the program as it were. Just want to sort out the announcements to see that they are all proper and ready to go. If this is your first time, welcome to 2:30 Conversations. We've been around for the past 2 years and we deal with issues to do with stuff that we go through as young people, as young adults, as Seventh-day Adventists, as human beings in general. So who are we? 2:30 Conversations. We're all about thought, facilitation, and discussion. And these are the announcements that we're having. Follow us on our YouTube channel, 230 Conversations SDA. Please do note that this particular program today will be broadcast, or rather uploaded on YouTube by tomorrow evening. So please do check it out as well, Politics and Religion. We're also on Instagram under the name SDA_advertise or SDA Advertise. Then we're also on Facebook, where we're currently live streaming on under the 2:30 Conversations Facebook page. Find us on TikTok as well under 2:30 Conversations. So these are the platform that we're currently at, talking about things that affect us as we look forward to the coming of our Savior. What are we having today? Pastor Thula, Nkosi, Politics and Religion. Please do note that this particular month of April, the theme is our religion and the world. Religion and the world. So last week we talked about the cost of religion, and then today we're talking about politics and everyday issue, things that affect our bread and butter issues, politics and religion. Next week, what are we talking about? Racism and religion. Who do we have? Professor Shepherd Mpofu, a phenomenal man that we have coming through. He's been part of us here, coming through and listening and also contributing. He's a phenomenal man, and we can't wait to talk about racism and religion with Professor Shepherd Mpofu. Then the other week, we've got religion and LGBTQI+. Kulufelo Pachele will take us through on that one there, on religion and LGBTQI. The last one is not, the poster has not been made because the speaker was still dealing with the speaker, is going to be religion and spiritualism. Religion and spiritualism, things to do with spiritualism and stuff like that. Here in South Africa this week, it's been something crazy about spiritualism and witchcraft and stuff like that. We'll speak about the other world when we talk about religion and spiritualism right there. May is all about money issues, money amongst us. That's the month of May. What are we talking about? The entrepreneurship, the practical guide. This is a phenomenal man. He's an entrepreneur, an addict of entrepreneurship. And this man, Mr. Ocha Karisa, will be taking us through on that one. So do note, these are the particular topics for April as put across, and these ones are the ones for May. But for May, we just advertised the first week with entrepreneurship. But do follow on 14 May, on 21 May, on 28 May, all these phenomenal topics that we're talking about. If you want to contribute to airtime, please do contact me, Mtandazo or Ashley. Want to contribute to the airtime fund, you are allowed to. Or if you want airtime data, please do contact me particularly. The Northern Conference has given us money to actually buy airtime for people that want to attend. Without further ado, I'd like to stop here with the announcements, and immediately after that, I'm going to look for my pastor, then I'm going to unmute him, put him on video, and then pin him up. Then he begins his particular presentation. Now I'm going to work with him. He's going to present for me for the next 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Then immediately after that, we're going to be able to start interacting. And I think he knows the order of the program. Pastor, I've tried to unmute you right now. Are we working on that? I'm trying to ask you to put your video on and also to unmute you as well. Pastor Thula, Nkosi, can you hear me? Here's my pastor, disappeared too. Let me look for you again. I'm trying to unmute you. Let's try that again. Pastor?
Am I fine?
Yes, you're fine. I can't see you though. Would you like to put on your video? Let me try to ask to start video. Something should pop up on your screen right now. Yes. Okay. Oh,
Thank you very much.
No. You're gone.
Oh, okay.
Let's try that again. There you are. I think yes. I think you should be there. Perfect. All right.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, good. Mfundisi, take us through then. God bless you. When you're done, give it over to me. Then we can facilitate the questions and the discussion from there on.
Thank you very much. I was impressed by the request, particularly the topic, because we're at a time in the history of the world and of Adventism and Christianity in general, when particularly people of your age, young people are beginning to raise questions about traditions they found when they were born here. And the question of the relationship between religion and politics is a very controversial one in a colonial context, because frankly, colonization has merely mutated itself into another form. It is one of those things that almost never end in the history of the world. I need to make the bold statement that we were colonized first as Africans, but also as African Christians. The 1994 political experiment in South Africa has not brought us any sensible understanding of what it means to be a liberated African. Besides the economy and a lot of other associated epistemic and experiential realities have connived around the African persona to the point where many of us are giving hope in the future. People have gone suicidal, people have gone abusive, and one seeks for remedies that are difficult to find and establish. I do need to say that within the Christian faith, particularly the Adventist faith, challenges are going to be very sharp and pointed, even beyond the COVID period, for the simple reason that Adventism is rooted on 2 or 3 premises. One, it assumes universal validity when that is not true. What is valid is the biblical message, but not necessarily Adventism as driven by an organization led by Eurocentric or Euro-Westerners. 2, Adventism has not gone along with the decolonization movement and thus remains at the backyard of colonial thinking and practices. Many of its members will refuse that it is colonial, but young people experience it, especially young people who are literate, experience Adventism as a colonial faith rooted in Euro-Westernism, particularly Americanism, because the faith came here largely from American missionaries, and they are gone now, but their spirit remains here. Their literature remains here. Adventists read primarily American created literature. So we're very pro-American in our thinking, in our musical culture, and so on. You know, this morning I woke up. I'm doing a lot of writing now. I might tell you later why we're producing literature in Soweto that we have not seen in the past. But I'm trying to think if. And this is a very radical position. I'm trying to think if we shall have apostatized if we pull out of the current union. I'll discuss the issues later, fine. But here is the point related to the question you have asked me. What is politics and what is religion? I want to go back to African epistemology. African epistemology is a unified epistemology. It does not divide things into pockets and fractions. African thought is holistic, universal thought. Because it comes from a theological creationist view. Creationism is the first basis of African epistemology. We never had atheism here. Atheism is alien to African thought and experience. Our people worship God. They did not worship demons. They did not worship ancestors. When whites came here and saw us doing ancestral practices, they assumed that we were worshiping the dead, and that we believed that the dead would guide us into the future. I'll come to that later. But Adventism arrives here about 170 years ago, between 1880 and 1887. And it is brought by people who came from a country that had enslaved our fathers and mothers. And so they've got a wide view what it means to be a Christian, what it means to be an African. If you read Adventist literature of the years from the 1800s up to the late 50s, you will discover, for instance, pictorial representations of people with whites labeled and blacks not labeled in the same photograph, which shows that the writers did not regard us as full human beings, but as recipients of favor from a world that had assumed universal rightness, morality, civilization, and so on. But history has proved that the Europeans are just as pagan as I want to say this without any fear of contradiction, as the owner of unrighteousness, the devil himself, because they came here with wrong perceptions of what it meant to be black and African. Two, they came here in the aftermath of the enslavement of our brothers and sisters. Three, they came here within the gamut, the process of colonization, British, later Dutch colonization. So Adventism, the womb of Adventism, its embryonic origins in South Africa occurred within a colonial, racist, Euro-Western mode. And we get born within this campus of issues. And the younger generation, your group, for instance, especially those who have been to tertiary education, are beginning to say, what's this thing? Will this thing move us into the future? Will we land on heaven's shore with this type of faith? I want to be honest with you. God has been very merciful to us in our ignorance and our loyalty to Adventism. But we also need to tell those who brought the gospel here that they add very miserably against us. And it's just it won't help us now to hide the fact that Adventism, as structured and practiced in South Africa, is a colonial Eurocentric religion. We're made to wear ties, we're made to sing songs that our people never composed, as if our compositions are inferior to those of the Handels and others. By the way, most of the songs we sing in our church were composed before 1844. So you don't stand up before a church and say, let's sing Adventist songs. No, there are very few songs in our hymn books that were composed by Adventist musicians. The man who compiled the Christ in Song, out of which African hymnals were drawn, Franklin E. Belden, was a nephew of Ellen White. He died a non-Adventist because he became disgruntled. He thought that the Rivian Herald had not done him good in payment for the work that he did. Which is why, after some time, particularly in 1985, the General Conference stopped the publication of the Christ in Song. That song is no longer the hymn book of the official hymn book of this church, which is also why the church hymnal, as we have known it, has also been moved back into history, because we have a new Advent hymnal now. What Africans have not done in the church is to create their own hymnals. They sing songs from elsewhere as special songs. There's nothing special about a song. A song represents the ethos of a people, the experience of a people in their salvation history. So the topic for today is very broad, and I may need to be going into little windows, opening doors here and there, so that I can be as broad and as comprehensive and perhaps as definitive as possible. But I want to deal with what is Adventism and what is Christianity and what is colonization. Those will be the pillars around which I'm going to be moving. What is Adventism? Adventism is a religion rooted in the biblical eschatological truth that one of these days, the Savior who bled on the cross, who created this world 6,000 years ago, is coming back to collect those who have adhered to his demands. This has nothing to do with the General Conference, nothing to do with anybody who was born after 1863, when the first business session of Adventist Church was held in Michigan, Battle Creek, Michigan. So that's the first thing I want us to understand, that Christianity does not belong to any church. It belongs to God. You find it in the Bible. What theologians and religionists have done in the last past 1,000 years is to pull out things that were consistent with their understanding, and that led to denominationalism and multi-denominationalism. And Adventists now have to do missionary battles within a wide array of people who each of whom thinks that his faith perspective is the legitimate one and right one. So Adventists are not the only ones who are dominating the space now. Most of because we're small in number. In South Africa, all of us combined, all racial groups combined, have a very scandalous number. We're less than 250,000 since the 1880s. Less than 250,000. There are reasons for that, which I can discuss at another time. But what I'll be saying in the next 2 or 3 minutes relates to Adventism as well. For now, I want to be broad because we're laying the groundwork for why Adventism is what it is. Christianity was initially an Old Testament religion, which moved into what we call the New Testament. All the people who practiced it, from Adam up to the time of Paul and so on, were African people. The Bible was written by African people, dark-skinned people. There's no a single white man who wrote even a full stop in the Bible. They did it recently while they were translating and so on. But the Bible was written by our ancestors. There was no Bible for 2,500 years after Adam, no Bible at all. People listened to their parents, which is why in the Bible and in African culture, the 5th commandment is central. Honor your father and your mother. The people obeyed their parents, even in those cultures that we don't find in the Bible. In fact, Ellen White does say in one of her books, I think it should be Patriarchs and Prophets or Special Messages. I'm not sure that, yeah, but in one of those books, she says, in a vision of heaven, she says actually, there are many people who will be saved in pagan cultures. These are exact words. I'm quoting exactly. And then she says, because they obeyed their parents. Not the pastor, not the church board, not anybody, not the channel conference. By the way, that is the first commandment in African thought. Obey your parents. And that commandment has a blessing embedded in it. Get the point? Because Africans are not systematic theologians, but contextual theologians. Whites who came here from all denominations, who brought systematic theology, which then delineates doctrines, fundamental beliefs, and all those things. We call that systematic theology. Africans don't systematize things. They experience things and then articulate how they experience them. African knowledge is primarily experiential knowledge. When an African says, I know so and so, he won't do it. It means he's telling you he has had an experience in which that person failed to do that thing. And when an African says, I know that one, he'll forgive you. He's speaking. All our knowledge is experiential. We did not have laboratories. The totality of life was our laboratory. Right. I don't know if there are any questions there. I just felt I needed to lay a broad foundation on who we are as African thinkers, African practitioners, and so on. But let me complete this little one by saying, in the New Testament, you begin to see Europeans coming into the faith, but not as practitioners, but not as writers. The whole Bible from Genesis to Revelation has the signature of Africanness, blackness, which is why it was an African who had to carry the cross of a fellow African brother. But the cross was a European invention used for people who had committed high treason against Rome. So the cross and the cross bearer become the meeting point of African people and Europeans in Jesus Christ. But whites, because they had a technology that was faster and more advanced than ours, assumed superstitiously that they are the ones who invented or discovered or articulated the primary principles of religion, of the Christian religion. They did not. They did not. So one of the things we need to do today, all of us who are in this program, is to start owning this faith. Read the Bible now with African eyes. I've read mine for about 14 times through now, from Genesis to Revelation. There was a time when I was on holiday, I decided I need to read this Bible so that nobody deceives me. I bought food and drinks and so on. I locked the house and I would read and get tired and sleep and drink and eat and then read again. In between 16 and 18 days, I was done with Genesis to Revelation. I was shocked at the amount of stories and narratives and arguments and issues that the church had never taught us. Some of those things have not been spoken to us even to this day. May I pause here? Thank you.
All right. My elder, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, good. Would you want to take a pause now to take questions, or you want to continue? Because we can have that option for you to continue. Then we can start discussing from there.
Yeah. Let those who have questions or comments speak in the next 5 minutes or so. After that, I will then deal with the specific topic for today, because I wanted to lay a background behind why we have split politics from life and why we've removed Christianity from politics. Thank you.
Oh, okay. All right. No, that's fine. I think we can try and do that. So if anyone has something to comment on here, because we're going to go to the second part where we're going to be running through to the crux of what we're talking about, which is politics and religion. But the background has been laid about the issues to do with Adventism and how important it is then to have that African eye when we're looking into issues to do with what affects us on a daily basis, and politics being very key to that part of our lives. Biblically and so on, right? So what you do, simple as usual, you just lift up your hand through the platform. Our pastor is ready to answer any question whatsoever. Then you will continue from there on. If not, Pastor Mfundisne, we can continue. Then we can pick it up from there while the audience keeps thinking about things that they need to do. Maybe take us through, Mfundisi. Okay, there's a raised hand from Dixam, the politician. Let's have Dixam, the politician, coming through right now. Talk to us, the politician.
Yeah. Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, my man.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I've heard the pastors, he calls it that background talk. I hope he will also go in the direction of the issue of political involvement, especially of Adventists, because I believe as Adventists in different facets, whether we are black or white, I believe our approach to politics and involvement really has been more of silent, even on moral and political issues. So I'm just hoping that the pastor will also move in that direction and maybe assist us to identify, do we really have some principles in the Bible that are really saying that Adventists should just not involve themselves? Yes, we know that we are people in the world, but not of the world. So what exactly does that mean? I think that is where my area of interest is, and I hope the pastor maybe will move us also in that direction. How much involvement as Adventists do we need to engage, especially in political challenges and crises that our world is facing, whether be it we are Adventist or we are Adventists trying to send or spread an Adventist message. Thank you. I hope my question is understood, and my area of interest as an Adventist who is passionate to participate and be involved in government issues or political crises and so forth.
All right. Thank you so much, Ndixam, the politician, moving us in the direction of the essence of why it's important, or should we, and do we have biblical examples of issues to do with Christians being involved in political circles? Is it a safe space to go into? And if so, Mfundisi, are we saying Christians would want freedom, which comes from a political plate, but we're not involved in that particular process of getting that freedom? Where freedom of worship right now is brought to us by political spaces and political resources. So are we saying we should not be involved in that? Maybe Mfundisi, you can take us through. The Van also have a question, but you can take us through an answer to that while you zero in on politics and religion.
The next person ask the question, then I'll deal with both of them.
All right, Van Heerden, go ahead there, please. Go ahead, I've just unmuted you.
Okay, Pastor. We know that there was a stampede for Europeans to colonize Africa.
Yes.
And some saw an opportunity to use missionaries to infiltrate the tribes that were around.
Yes.
But it is not necessarily true that all the missionaries that came here had the same intentions.
It's a fact.
Some genuinely wanted to spread the word to the communities that they came to. So now those ancestors are gone and their offspring live with us today. Now, how do we reach out to their offspring if we are going to paint them all with the same brush?
Fine. Is there any other question?
No, that's fine, Mfundisi. We can pull through on that one. Then you'll continue. Then I'll give opportunity to the other ones as we go along. Take us through, Mfundisi.
Yeah. The first thing I need to say is that Adventism finds itself practicing its faith, whatever that is, in a very controversial epistemology. Christianity is under attack from all other sides because its greatest misfortune is its multi-denominationality. That is its greatest fortune. And it is Christians who have destroyed Christianity more than outsiders because they've split it into denominations. And each denomination argues that it has the truth and so on. And of course, why we know that there's the bigger denomination, the Catholic Church, that is also pushing its own religio-political agenda. And Adventists have embraced a persecution mentality that says that monsters will be coming for us. No, there are many children of God who will be persecuted alongside with us. Don't think that we are the antithesis of Catholicism. There are many other people who don't recognize the Catholic Church as its religious leader, conscious leader. Remember also that an organization as big as Catholicism cannot be worried really about a movement that is about 20 million, 25 million around the world only. There should be other persons who are anti-Catholic in the broad spectrum of religion. Number two, whites came here 1652. They found us with an African version of culture and faith. We did not have the text in south of the equator because we had moved away from where the text was located. But the Bible was written by our African ancestors. That's the one thing that history has validated. Two, we need to know also that because of the fall of man, even the faith we practice is practiced within an adulterated context. The devil works this way. He does not create a direct opposite of goodness. He creates a mixture of the good and the bad, and he sells it to you, which is why the opposite of the tree of life was not the tree of death, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Mark this principle. Evil is not autonomously independent. It always hides behind the veneer of truth. And that is why you need to cover a lie with the truth in order for the lie to deceive you, right? Right. Now, politics then becomes part of the broader scope of human existence. And religion needs to speak into that. Instead, religion has taken a back seat because we now live in the world of epistemic equalities. You can't tell me that politics is bigger than religion. You can't tell me that religion is bigger. All these things are one thing. We lost the integration when sin came in. That's one thing you need to know. We're fighting a battle that's more than 5,000 years old now. So in the South African context, I'm going to be specific now. Our church was wrong in telling us that politics is a no-go area, while the whites inside the church were deep in politics. That was not right. That was not right. I've things I can't disclose in public because they're very sensitive about the role of politics within the Adventist church. Secondly, you need to know that we have to take the trouble as Africans now to find where the missionaries went wrong and what is right, because fighting them will not help, because whites have got many ways of hiding from harm. So there is a relationship between politics and religion, but we're creating an unnatural relationship when we bring the two together, because they are not the only ones that have a relationship with each other. Commerce, education, all these disciplines form part of faith and politics. You could say politics is a wide spectrum of disciplines, but also religion does the same thing. So ultimately, what are we discussing here? We're discussing human existence. Does human existence, positive human existence, allow politicality in the area of faith? You get the point? You cannot not be political. You are carrying an ID document. You live in a particular house with in a particular street with a particular number. You have a government over you. Governments were initiated by God, who is the universal governor. The problem with human governments is that they are fallen governments, all of them, including biblical governments. They are fallen. Anything human is the taint of what happened in the Garden of Eden. So we have tended to raise the argument between politics and religion, primarily because post 1652, we have been oppressed politically by other people. Now, the extreme is those who say we're Christians, we don't engage in politics, but they're carrying an ID document. They don't live anywhere. They obey a government. So don't tell me that politics and religion don't work the same way together. Whites have taught us something very nefariously dangerous, that you can split disciplines. That thing, number one, is not biblical. Secondly, is not African. Africans did not believe in dichotomous thinking. They did not practice dichotomous thinking. They believed in the universe, which is why our architecture was universally designed. You see, the African heart is designed the way of the sky. Yeah. It represented the wholeness of life. When you are in an African heart, the convectional movement of air monarchies is the same. There is no part of the Rondavelle that is warmer than others. Whites then infused in us the fact that we can dichotomize life. The central problem around this question, whether we should be in politics or in religion, is the fact that whites dichotomize things. They've got multi-cornered architecture. We did not have that in Africa. We had our Rondavelles, which depict our concept of the wholeness of life. Right. So the battle is not around should there be politics or not. Should we engage in politics? No. The battle is around what is the epistemology we are following. Is it an epistemology of dichotomies or of unities? Uniformity or diversity? That's the question you should be dealing with. The devil is always clever, especially when he works with religious movements. He throws them the wrong diet so that they can spend time, the wrong meal, spend time lacerating one another over a wrong plate, and he keeps the right one so that you never see it. The debate should not be, is religion and politics, should religion and politics be partners? The debate should be, how do you define what is called life? How do you live your life? Are you a religious life, a religious person, and a political person? You see, we even divide time. It's religious time now. It's academic time now. It's this. The dichotomies don't come from heaven. They come from this world. So we're struggling with a worldly epistemology. If we had the right procedures, would not have created words like, for instance, the word politics does not appear in African languages. I don't see it. Why? Because African thought and languages discuss the totality of life. And that's how we experience life. I experience life now as a human being, as an African human being, but I'm experiencing it in its totality, whether it is fractured or not. I don't go to bed and say the physical, biological being is sleeping now. And when I wake up, I say the political being is sleeping now. So we need to doctor the very questions we're asking around this dichotomy. Because as long as we dichotomize, we are going to have an endless discussion. What we need to do is to destroy the dichotomy in the first place and say, let's look for the holistic view of what God did in the Garden of Eden. And all the time God speaks to us, he speaks to us as total beings. That's why the Bible always insists on being holistic, physical, spiritual, mental, emotional, social, all those things come into being. Let me tell you one of the results of this hypocritical or this heretic epistemology. Our schools only teach academics and faith. They don't teach social life. They don't. Why? Because social life belongs to the devil. Social life belongs to the devil. And yet you go to the devil's arena to collect money, you pay as tithe in church. So we need to doctor our epistemology. First of all, as Christians, secondly, as Adventists. Are we asking the right questions? The wrong questions will always come from a wrong epistemology. Let's start asking the right questions, then we'll fix the problem. I want to pause here.
All right, Mfundisi, it's
in,
okay.
in other words, I'm moving the discussion from should Christians get involved in Christianity, in politics. We should go to the question, is it right to split these things? Because these things form the totality of life.
Okay, all right,
yeah.
All right. So we're having the kind of discussion, Mfundisi. We would have, with the flow of thought that you're having, it would be nice to have you continue, then we can just collectively take questions. Yeah, so I think it's easier that way. You just continue. When you're done, then the questions will come in, and they'll come in piles and piles of them all. So I don't know if you can pull us through on that one. Just continue. Then Tina will take the questions maybe for the next 10 minutes, continue. So then after that, we can take the questions all together. Then we have that discussion, that conversation that we're all about.
Thank you very much.
All right.
I want to start the valid question now, the valid discussion from the point of worship. In the Bible, God makes man out of the soil, and then he breathes into him through Adam, the first being, the breath of life. First, he's a physical object, then he becomes a physical being. And that breath of life from God, not from the devil and not from an ancestral spirit, from God himself, has in it divinity, which is multifarious in its operations. It's multidimensional. So all these objects, the brain did not start first. The feet did not start. No, the totality of Adam woke up. And Adam became totally and instantly conscious of his existence and the existence of this being next to him. All right. So we need to find our answer in what God did in the Garden of Eden. God did not create a social being, a political being, a mathematical being, a physical being, a theological being. He created a total being whose brain had a conscience, who could imagine morality, who could imagine discipline, who could imagine law, who could imagine obedience and compliance with the universal law of obedience. Now comes man, because of the degradation of sin, we start splitting these disciplines. We then talk of economics, we then talk of accounting. We split things because we ourselves are now a split formation. We even have splitted our humanity. We now talk of this group and that group, this church and that church, and the world currently, even inside the church, lives in multi-dimensional, sometimes conflictual dimensional realities. that would be a discussion of another day. I'm trying to say to us, the question we are dealing with will not give us the right answer because we're asking it from a secularistic point of view, that when God created man and knowledge, he created dichotomies. He didn't. God created the totality of being. Look at what happens in the Garden of Eden. All the things necessary for the one who arrives on the 6 days are there already. There's water, there's soil, there are trees, there are animals, there's everything, there's order, there's perfection, there's reproduction, all those things come in, and the Satan would not have made that. So we need to move from the holistic view of the Bible that says all life must be lived completely and in balance, including political life, so that the question, should Christians engage in politics, becomes nonsensical and unnecessary. Look at the number of the amount of politics that is in the Bible: kings, monarchies, captains, armies. One of the dirtiest books in the Bible, by the way, is in the world, is the Bible. There are wars there, there's adultery, all sins are inside the Bible, because life cannot be dichotomized. Real life cannot be dichotomized. In the Bible, you find kings, you find exercising laws on other people, but also being tempted with the falsities of human nature. I think that's enough for that. But let's now come closer home. The South African church has been teaching us that politics and religion don't mix. Let me tell you something. All things are religion. The word religion comes from Latin religio, meaning a relationship. That's why religion is rooted in our relationship with our Creator. And that is why anybody who does not relate to anybody else cannot be a valid Christian. And that word religion strikes at the very root of racism and colonialism, because it makes you think of the other as an opposite rather than a complement of who you are. I hope I'm being understood here. So we need even to check the language we use, because some of our debates are based on defective terminology. What is politics? Because you won't find that word in the Bible. It does not exist. In the Bible, you find the word police, which referred in Greek to cities and so on. Biblical communities lived complete life. If we were to follow biblical life, there would be no difference between a king and a commoner, a priest and a saint and whatever, would live a holistic life. Which is why European nations live holistic lives. Look at the Jews. They're a political kingdom, but they're also a spiritual kingdom. They've got economy. They've got their own lifestyle, because they've stuck to the holism that is found in Scripture. Holism that is found. But when they come here, they tell us politics is out of the question, because that's where they are making the evils against us. So we need to move away. I'm glad we're discussing this thing, because we need to start asking the right questions now from a right epistemology, a knowledge system. Because if I were to follow the logic of the question we are dealing with, we would end up with a split formation understanding, split understanding of God's will in our lives. Look at your own body. Where does it start and where does it begin? You can't say it starts from the head and it ends on the toes. Where is the starting point? It is covered by one smooth skin, and you can't tell, no, it was stitched here and so on. That's how God thinks. When he sees things, he sees them in wholes. It is human beings who use Greek philosophy to analyze and break things. By the way, Hebraic and African thought did not break things, it unified things. That is why we had a secular view of life. Can I pause?
All right, let me do this. All right, now I'm going to give over to the hands now. Let's have the discussion coming through. I think pretty much clear on this. We are of the idea and influences of the idea that politics and religion cannot be separated. And I just want to make sure that is clear to everyone. When we speak religion, we're not only zeroing into Adventism, but the holistic part of religion as it should be. Got a couple of hands coming here. It's time to discuss. What are we thinking about? What do we do? Should I, as a Christian, be involved in religion, in political matters? Can I be elected to be a mayor? And what are the pros and cons of that? Biblical examples of that, the dangers of being involved in all of that. And how is our church? How is our church moving into the religious space? Can church influence religion, or religion on the other side is influence. Can church influence politics? Right? Sorry, or politics on the other side is influencing church as well. And this is spoken post-COVID-19, as it were. All right, a couple of hands coming up here. Just note this word, this particular questions. I'm going to give over to the following people in the following order. Okay, Charles, I don't see you anymore. You had your hand up earlier on. Let me just start with you, Charles. Then I'll come to Usenzo. Charles, if you're good to go, then I can just show me by lifting up your hand, because I remember you're the first one to lift up your hand before that. Charles, I'm going to try and unmute you. Let's go. There's Charles there, unmuted. Senzo, you're coming next, Miss Dube. After that, let's go. Charles, take us through. What are your thoughts, religion and politics?
Thank you so much, Mr. Hoss. Am I audible?
Loud and clear, sir.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to Mfundisi again. I have just a couple of questions, Mfundisi, with regards to this topic. Okokuqala, when you first did the presentation, you mentioned of our Christendom being colonized by the Westerners. To a point whereby they are gone now, but their spirit remains with us. You mentioned our dress that is already colonized. You mentioned, whether I doubt whether you mentioned this, that even our education system is somehow colonized. So how can we decolonize the system? Because I believe this is a system that has been made to run through. It's efficient, it's running. No wonder the spirit of these colonizers remains, yet they are gone. So my particular question and concern is, how can we decolonize the system? That's question number one. Question number two, Mfundisi. This is a very sensitive topic, I guess, that we need to be very practical on it, because we have seen in some denominations or in some churches whereby if a member pronounces themselves to affiliate themselves politically, it's either they are excommunicated or they are dealt with, they are disciplined. I want to give a case study. I always give this case study to the brothers that we always talk about, that the SID offices, the SID was previously housed in Zimbabwe back then.
Yeah.
But due to the economic hardships in Zimbabwe, the SID was moved to South Africa. I want us to have a discussion on that, because the part of it is that politics played so that the economy shrinked, and hence the church found it. The church found itself without an option but to move. So, what exactly is it proper? What exactly needs to be done if I wake up today and decide to stand as a councillor in my ward? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mfundisi. Can I just take two more hands, Mfundisi, and you note that, then I'll give you an opportunity to be able to answer all of that. So that it can be. Thank you, Charles, for that one there. The issues to do with, have you also in your own church, maybe to all the participants here and all the people that are viewing this, even on Facebook, thank you, Facebook family. Have you also had the backlash of being involved in political issue situations and then bringing into it on a religious aspect? And keep in mind as well, Mfundisi, the Zambian president is a Seventh-day Adventist.
Yeah.
When he was running for president, maybe Adventists would look at him the wrong way. Maybe they excommunicated him. Then suddenly he's the president, and suddenly everyone says, thank God, now we've got a political figure aligned to our religious aspects or religious thinking up there in the highest office of the land. So let's think about that, those things as going along. Senzo, I know you love politics. Senzo, go ahead, Miss Dube, you're next. Then Mfundisi, you respond after Miss Dube. Senzo.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Loud and clear, Paul. Loud and clear.
Yeah. I find it very strange that we have David, who got Solomon. I mean, let's talk about David. David was a king. He was running the affairs of that place he was in. That was political. And it was appointed by God himself, because God did not create us to be ruled by evil people. He ruled that will be ruled by holy people on his lineage, or people who follow him. Now, this thing of us letting politicians who are evil to rule us has actually compromised us as a church, because we find out now we cannot say such things, because the reason why the fact that the church says that we must not join politics is because they believe that politics are evil, because we at the first place have allowed them to take over. We have allowed the devil to take over that position, instead of us, as God has appointed us to be denominators of every system in this world as his followers. But we have failed to do that. We have failed to denominate. We have failed to do what he said in Genesis, that we should look after all these things. But we have failed to do that. But now we come out saying that it's wrong to do this, it's wrong to do that. And exactly what you're saying, that when now politicians start making decisions for us that, hey, we should close churches and all those kind of things, it affects us as the church. But we are busy complaining that politics are this and this. And other thing I want to allude on is that it's very strange for me that the same white people who claim that they wrote the Bible, they didn't notice that slavery is wrong, because if they read the Bible properly, it denounces slavery, because God himself, the creator of heaven and earth, had to rescue his people from slavery. So how can you, the author of the Bible, do the same things that you claim that the person who gave birth to you, God, it does not approve of it? How could we have not seen that? So it boggles my mind that these things, how can they miss these things? How could they have missed that slavery is wrong? So I'm really appreciating what you touching, the things are touching on, they are very important. And personally, I'm an ANC, and because I didn't join the ANC because I wanted to gain anything. I wanted to join because I want to influence, and people know that I speak a lot, I talk, that we mustn't do this. Let's be practical. Let's be practical. They know that the ANC, that I always preach that let's try to be honest leaders. Let's all do all the right things, because we must influence the right things. They know that I go to church. I do my best to influence the right things. We must do that. That's the point of why we are here, because politicians are selfish, most of them, because they don't have God. If they did have God, if they knew God, we wouldn't be even where we are now, because they would have followed the reasoning of God and his word.
All right.
Thank you for that
so
comment.
much,
It's
Sesi.
wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Mfundisi approves of that. Miss Dube, then Mfundisi will come and respond to all of that. Thank you so much for that one. For those that don't know, in the international community, ANC is the African National Congress. It's the one that is running the country right now, the political space that we're in. Because Mfundisi has got an international community, that people from the UK, people from America, they might not know that Senzo is an ANC member here. That's the ruling party. Miss D, take us through, Miss D. All right, Ms. Dube, you are unmuted. Let's try that again. I'm going to ask to unmute you, Ms. Dube.
Yeah, okay.
Perfect. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear, sister.
Okay. So it's interesting. It's very interesting that you say you have studied the Bible that many times from Genesis to Revelation. I think maybe Nishai once, because I haven't even done it once. So it's very admirable. So 2 Timothy chapter 3, 16 and 17 says, all scripture is breathed out by God and profitable for teaching, for reproof, for correction, and for training in righteousness, right? So that means yonkinto in the Bible, not the evil things, but God put them there so that they become examples, so that we are trained and taught. In Deuteronomy, there is a verse that says, where God says, you shall not be tails, but you shall be the head. So I think, Sambe, we don't fully understand that verse when God is saying you shall be heads. What exactly is his soul? You'll be employed, you'll have a good salary that allows you to buy a Mercedes-Benz, and you'll buy clothes from Louis Vuitton and stuff like that. But we don't fully understand what God is saying. When God is talking about leadership, He's talking about leading his people, because that's what he's been doing in the Bible from the Old Testament, right? From the old times, Vele. So I think maybe we need to now start being taught what exactly God means when he's saying he wants his people to be different, to be peculiar. You know that whole verse, you shall be, you're a chosen nation, a royal priesthood, a peculiar people. We now need to revisit those verses and fully understand what God is saying. I am a firm believer that God is a God of politics, point blank, period. There is no way God would have allowed Joseph to rise up to the position where he was and be able to influence the situation so that his people can be fed. And during that time, everybody got food. That was how God wanted us to see the influence of someone who is under the instruction and the wisdom of God. Therefore, that means Nati, in our Christianity, if we are not in those positions and we're not influencing, then there's something wrong that we are doing. But then again, look at the Hebrew boys. Those boys were very intelligent, right? Could it be that maybe Tina, as Christians, especially Seventh-day Adventists, have failed in the education system of our people, so much so that they have not been put at a place where they are capable of thriving to the point of being able to stand up for positions, or rather be able to speak and be in positions of influence, right? Maybe it's something that we need to look at. But now I have an issue with the fact that we believe in Ellen White, you know, uNkulunkulu led her. Ellen White says, disassociate yourself with anything political. Let the people of the church and the members of the church and the leaders of the church deassociate themselves and excuse themselves for anything that is political. Therefore, how then do we marry? Because if anything, I will put the Bible first before Ellen White. However, the church puts Ellen White as the lesser light, yes, but she's still the light. What do we do? Because we fully believe that Ellen White was breathed on by God, and the Holy Spirit allowed her to write, even though it wasn't every single word. But the things that God allowed her to write was what God would say, okay, this is okay, she can write it too. So how then do we fix it? Because there are some people who are strongly into Ellen White and strongly into the Bible as well. Then it now poses a conflict. What then do we do? Because God is a God of politics, but then the same person that we fully believe says, excuse and deassociate yourself with politics. Thank you.
All right. Fundis, your plate is full. Miss D, everyone who spoke, thank you so much. Fundis, take us through. Take us through.
Number one, all of us, blacks and whites, whatever, red, white, yellow, in the middle, whatever there is that is human, have been affected by the Adamic fall. We have not understood the consequences of the Adamic fall. It led to distortions, it led to misdefinitions, it led to abuses, it led to misapplications, it led to corruption of knowledge itself, and the corruption of our view of God. God is the greatest politician. He makes rules, perfect rules. He's a perfect politician. He's a super president. He's actually more than a president. He's the creator of all the systems in the universe. We have hardly understood God, which is why this church, the Adventist Church, has never worshipped God. We've merely recognized our concepts of Him. Right. What we need as Africans is to reread the Bible with the eyes God gave us, not with the eyes Europeans got from God. Put commentaries aside. You can even put Ellen White aside. I'm saying this with a lot of caution. I want God to speak to you directly without any mediums intervening between him and you. Which is why when I read through the Bible, I discovered things the church had never taught and has not taught ever since I read. I'll come to one of those things. God creates a world. Let me go to Genesis. He creates a world, the material world. But it is sacred because it comes from his mind and from his head. This world is sacred. It may be material in the in physical sciences, but it is sacred material. That is why the earth gives birth to life. The earth is not dead. It gives birth to things that give birth to other things. And that's also why when things die, they go back to where they came from. Ecclesiastes tells us this. So one of the things we need to correct in the Adventist Church is to introduce true biblical epistemology, number one. We need to be ready to be called rebels, radicals, heretics. I mean, I know there are things the church is doing and saying that I no longer share with the church, because I've read through Ellen White. I found the wrongs that people think she was tolerating, and she never tolerated those things. I'll come to Ellen White later. So number one, we need to correct our epistemology and let it root itself in the Bible and not what the General Conference teaches us. We need to move away from the General Conference, not as an organization, but as thinkers. The GC needs to stop dominating our thought. Thirdly, whites have institutionalized their ideas. Blacks don't. They talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. We don't turn ideas into programs, into institutions. As the questions were coming in the few past minutes, I said to myself, I need to talk to the leader here and say, let's meet for one weekend somewhere. I need to deliver to you a proposal on how these questions should then be dealt with, because we're going to ask these questions forever until we correct our epistemic foundations. Right. The SID, in my thinking, I don't care whether they're listening or not, is a captured organization. It never utters anything socially relevant in this country. There are reasons why they do so. They're avoiding other things that would implicate them in trouble. So let's not do that. I'm not going to deal with the Zambian question. It's an institutional challenge. But all I'm trying to say is, let's check the terminology we use when we discuss God, our faith, Adventism. Let's check the terminology we use when we discuss issues that cause us pain. Sometimes it is the language we use that creates an epistemology. An epistemology creates a model of practice. So what we need to do now to deal with all these questions is to go back to the Bible and ask the question, did God create a divided world? Did God create divided nature? Who brought these distinctions? Who brought these hostilities, these animosities, these conflicts? Who brought the distinction between what we call religion and politics? Are these two really different or oppositional realities? How can there be politics without religion? How can there be religion without politics? Fine. I hope I'm walking the right route here.
Bundis, keep going. You're on the right route here. If you're done with answering, you can just get it back to me. I tell you, it's raring and going on the comment section here. It's fire on Facebook. You want to take it up from there further, or you want me to just take more hands in Bundis?
All right. Let me make one broad statement.
Okay, Paul. Good.
This discussion is the consequence of the conflict that occurred in heaven between Lucifer and the Creator. Ours is a minuscule, multiple fraction. I don't know how far below that struggle we are in. It was not just an issue of conflict. The devil wanted to rise. It was the supreme. The devil wanted to commit treason in heaven, and then he downgraded it to us so that we can be treasonous as well in clever ways that are mysterious to us, but very open to our angels. Because the real struggle in the universe is who shall be the Lord of your life. That's the ultimate struggle. And each Lord has got his own knowledge system. The devil is the one that is creating the dichotomy between politics and religion and politics, Adventism and Catholicism, and all these other things that have happened. And even divisions within small units of people, ultimately even in families. So I'm glad we're moving into this platform to discuss these things, because we're actually dealing with a major universal crisis. We're trying to understand the battle between God and the devil at our own level. Because it was a heavy political struggle.
Yeah.
Imagine how many angels in heaven, and the devil takes 33 1/3% of them. Look at the amount of harm he has caused in this world. How many are these angels? I don't know. I wish I knew. You get the point? So this discussion should be a starter to a bigger discussion. What we need now as Africans in the Adventist Church is to do what whites do. We put our efforts together in a conference. This is one of the things I want to propose, that we spend one day or a weekend somewhere in the Witwatersrand and thresh these things out, because we are always going to be answering questions, asking questions, reading Ellen White the wrong way, reading the Bible the wrong way. We need a convention where we can then say, what is the valid epistemology that Adventists should follow in a place like South Africa? Right. I want to go for the brass tacks now. There's nothing wrong per se in being a politician. There's nothing wrong per se in engaging in political issues, but avoid those issues that would compromise your principle and justice. All right? Avoid those questions. Avoid those questions that are inspired from another kingdom. Because the devil has won a battle by saying politics should move this way, religion should move that way. And yet you are in your life, look here, let me make this mathematically valid. 6 days you live in the world. How come you are not political? And then you become a saint in one day, in which some of us slumber while the sermon is being delivered, and in which some of us don't come back in the afternoon and so on. This is nonsensical thinking. Take your life as something whole. You live for 7 days, not 6 days. Live your 6 days, your 7 days as if it is the Sabbath. The Sabbath was made so that we could rest not only from labor, physical, but also from bad and satanic ideologies. It is strange that we're able to rest our bodies, but not our minds from satanic ideologies. For me, that week in creation has a lot we need to explore and develop to answer questions that we have here today. God is the leader of the universe. Therefore, he has created sub-leaders. But some of these sub-leaders have assumed this authority over our consciences. And that's where the negative politics comes in.
All right, thank you, Funis. All right, let's get the fluff. It's heated. So the general consensus here is, you know what? It's been long overdue. Adventists, religious people, Christians must be intimately involved in politics. That's the general idea that's coming through for everyone there. Ms. Dube says one of her questions has not been answered, but we'll come through to that. Ms. Dube, I want to give over to the following 3 hands of Funis. So please note the questions as well. Van Heerden, SK, and Ulinda Mkwananzi taking us through. But before that, Boyce is running for presidency in 2028. He just announced his presidency right here. He's going to be forming a party. So we need to pretty much follow through on that one there. We need to be influencing in the biggest position possible. Unkanta Lux here says to us here, how do we suppose we overthrow the world? If we're not in positions of influence. How do we make it if we're not in position of influence? All right, the following hands. Andrew Chini also had your hand up there. So let me give 4 hands quickly in that order while you take a break from all of that and you'll be writing the questions right now. Van Heerden, take us through.
Okay, Pastor, you said you were moving away from the Zambian question, but I'll use it as an example. Okay. I hope it works.
Go ahead.
Say the Zambian president, who is a Seventh-day Adventist, was the Ukrainian president right now. Okay. Now, Russia is coming heavy on Ukraine. And we have Seventh-day Adventists standing at the border of Poland. And the president is calling out that every able-bodied man should join the army. Now, it's easy to speak of politics in times of peace, but it's a different story when it is in times of war. So now, if we are to encourage, I hope I'm not leaning to any side, and I don't think my comment would sell me out on which side I'm leaning. I'm open to be swayed to any direction.
Yes.
That's just a disclaimer that I'll put in there. Now, in times of war, when the rubber hits the tar, it's a different story altogether. What does an Adventist standing at the border of Poland do? Does he join the war? I think yesterday, just before we switched off, I heard that there were atrocities carried out by the Russians, but there were also atrocities carried out by the Ukrainians, where they killed Russian prisoners. Now, if you are an Adventist and you're in that army, it means your hands are tainted as well. Now, when we have encouraged people to join such a political movement, what does it? It's actually a compromise of that principle that we spoke about. I know you answered it in part, but I thought I should put it there. So when you spoke of those people who have said that, who in the church, who have discouraged others from joining politics, it's probably from that perspective that they discourage politics because of some of the atrocities that can come from being in political organizations. Now that's the end of my topic, my comment. My wife would like to speak, and I must say that I might not share the views that she is about to express.
Okay, let's hear.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Just to add, I think there's a fear of because politics, the way politics is today, it's about partisanship, and I don't think that's how God intended it to be. Where it's now depending on who is in the ruling party and so forth, because under such an umbrella, they can be like what my husband is saying. They can be human rights violations committed under partisanship.
Yes.
What I believe in is, if as Christians are involved in politics, we are setting a standard, not being followers of Putin or of Zelensky or whoever it is, but we are like Daniel. Daniel was a politician, but he never followed the governors of other provinces of Babylon. He stood by his principles, and that's what even got him into trouble in the first place, where he was opposing the ruling party, so to say. He was a politician, but he did not follow the ruling party's agenda to say, no, we are going to worship the king only, or we are going to bow when we hear he was a politician with his own, who followed his own scruples, which is what I believe as Christians we should do, not to follow, oh, I am this, and therefore anything which is said by this party goes, or that other party goes. We should be involved, but what are your principles? What do you stand for? And not necessarily imbibe everything of whichever party.
Right. Thank you so much for that one, Dave. Van Heerden's bringing us through on that one. The fact that the wife and the husband have different political views is an interesting thing altogether. All right. Let's have SK and Andrew and I think Linda and then Andrew coming through. SK, quickly on that one as we speak more about politics. Can we ever, Mfundis, SK is unmute you, can we ever have clean politics? Is clean politics a reality in our time and age? And if I'm part of a political party that's involved in gross violation of human rights, can I put myself as a say to say, no, I'm not part of it. I'm just one of the honest ones. I'm just one of the good ones here. If a party is involved in destruction of property, in maladministration and massive corruption, can we as Christians in that particular party take ourselves from it and say, no, yes, they did, but we're the good ones? Is there clean politics? SK, take us through.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes,
Loud and
sir.
clear. Loud and clear.
All right, no, thank you so much. Thank you for this. I have a few questions. The first one is when we say politics, are we referring to what's happening politics today, or we're referring to politics how God intended it to be, like how God ran the nation of Israel? Because I'm looking at as well. I hear there are people are quoting the biblical characters and stuff. So I'm just wondering if when we say politics, are we referring to our political party today, or we're referring to how God intended politics to be, where the human rights are supposed to be the first on the list, where everyone must participate in sharing the goodness of God and the goodness of the land? Are you referring to this one, the current one, or the Israelite nation one? The second question is, if we are saying, okay, let's join the political parties today, now as a church, do we join them as individuals or as a body of Christ? Now, if we're joining it as a body of Christ, what criteria do we use to choose a political party? Remember, we are a global movement. So in every country, there is a different political parties. So like, what criteria do we use to say, okay, in this country, Adventist is for EFF, in that country, Adventist is for whatever? That's so what criteria do we use if we're joining it as a body of Christ? Then if we're joining it as individuals, now how do we reconcile a ANC member who thinks EFF is trash and followers of EFF they don't think? How do we reconcile these two? You might find that is a big church with 8 elders. And among 8 elders, we have 5 who are ANC, 4 who are EFF. Now, how do we reconcile that those differences? Yeah, I think, I'm done with my question. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much, SK, for that. Much appreciated. The questions to do with that. Is it possible that Elder A from ANC and Elder B from EFF could take the church on sabotage and say to her, no, listen, we don't agree on this particular church issue, but more of it all comes from the political inclinations of the two, putting the church under sabotage or siege because of their differences in political inclinations. Let's go to Ulinda, then Andrew, then Mfundisi will take us through. SK, you're on point. Thank you so much for that question. Let's go. Linda. Linda Mkwananzi, I'm taking it through, Mkwananzi. Take us through. Let me try that again, Mkwananzi. I'm trying to unmute you. So something should pop up on your screen as usual. You've been with us. I think it could be a network issue there. You've deactivated your audio now, Mkwananzi. Let me try Andrew in the meantime while you're getting ready to come through. Andrew, please take us through. Sorry about that, Mkwananzi. I'll come back to you.
Hi, happy Sabbath, everyone.
Perfect.
I wanted to, an excellent presentation, sir. I really enjoyed it, even though I came a bit late. I wanted to share some thoughts and perhaps delve into some questions on it. My readings of Spirit of Prophecy is that there needs to be a separation of church and state, because, well, the state itself, no, the church will essentially use the state or influence the state to bring about key end time events, notwithstanding, or not least of which, is the implementation of the Sunday law and the various steps that are taken to achieve Sunday law that will come through the state influenced by the church. And that would underscore why participation in politics by Christians or SDAs would not be encouraged. Now, on the flip side, on the same matter, then there is an argument for Adventists to occupy positions of power so that in the implementation of these policies and so on that will bring about the Sunday law, if you will, it will not affect Adventists perhaps as much. There is an argument for that. Do you think that in light of all of that, the argument for Adventists to participate in politics is stronger than the argument to avoid politics altogether and to detach from the world and to participate in, as they say, country living? What are your thoughts on that, sir?
Right. Thank you so much, Andrew, for that one. Let me have one more hand. Linda, Fundis, after that, you're going to take us through. After Linda, Zaza, you come through, but let me Fundis talk after Ulinda Mkwananzi coming through. Thank you, Andrew. I think Andrew's from Jamaica. Thank you for coming through. Really appreciate your presence. Also, I think we've got a UK presence here, American presence. I think there's also China and other countries that we have here. Beautiful, the conversation that we're having, because this particular issue is a worldwide universal issue. I'm going to unmuting you now.
Okay. All right, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Go ahead, please.
Hi, Sanbonan Fundis. My question, almost in the same category, no skumbuzo, in the sense that when we speak politics, should we be joining existent parties? And it stems from the fear that they practice things that sometimes are in a different direction from what we believe. For instance, during campaigning season, the ANC or the EFF or VF Plus will choose to have a rally on a Sabbath, right? And ube wena kufuneke wenze Sabbath school on that very Sabbath, right? And so my question stems from that: do existent political parties really serve the purpose? Is it worth the energy to go into them and try and drive them to a particular direction? Is it worth the energy? Or is it a case of, should we form our own? And now my worry and my argument with that is that we already are failing ukuzwana within our own church. We have what we term church politics. For instance, as it is right now, we are split on issues like what do we call that, Kanen, in English?
Women ordination.
Women ordination, right? This thing is killing us. It's driving us to pieces, very minute pieces. And so then it then tells me that the same would happen if we were to form our own. Is it worth the energy though? The second question also comes in the sense of, right, as young people, we have identified these things that perhaps our elders used to throw at the back of the net and not want to address. Now that we have woken up to this, how do we materialize our ideas when we are not given the space to? Because time and again, you find that when a person is radical, they become, so to speak, an enemy. You know, they are a person that you are told not to associate with. They're a person who is given a red alert to so and so is like this, you know, you don't want to be. How do we materialize ideas that may look new or may look odd to the older generation that is, you know, in power, because they are still our elders and we still want to practice respect towards our elders. At the same time, we also need to revolutionize the systems that are currently in place. Because, for instance, even Pathfinder curriculum, I find that it's very Eurocentric. Some of these things are not even there in Africa, you know? Medical missionary course, you find that they tell you about a herb that does not even exist in Africa. But we've got herbs right here at home, you know? Things like umhlonyan. Those are things that are healing, things that we should be learning about in the medical missionary course. But because the system has been rigged from the onset, you know, we find ourselves still learning these things that are absolutely, if I may to say, you know, aimless towards what we're driving to. Because at the end of the day, it's aimless to learn about something that you will not find in your native country. And I will not learn about something just to go and practice it elsewhere when I live here, right? So how do we then materialize this in the fact that we want to do a medical missionary course, but we want it to be relevant to our, you know, African setup? Because that then also creates the background of other things like politics, for instance. And lastly, I would want to ask you, is it our fear of politics in view of the world? Could it also be influenced by the fact that our education is so weak? I mean, for instance, Daniel and his friends, they received the Chaldean education. The Bible does say, right? They excelled in the sciences of the Babylonians. But the basis of their character speaks to the fact that their education from their Hebrew mothers was very strong, because they were able to stand for what they believed in. After having been influenced, after having been educated in the Chaldean curriculums, right? They still had that stand of the character. So could it be that we fear being involved in politics because our education is so weak? We know that we wouldn't stand for the right principles. In fact, we are not sure what our right principles are. Because it also then, for me, also says a lot, the fact that even now, when you go to a Black person and say, take your child out of mainstream and homeschool them, it sounds like a crazy idea. Yet you look at white people and that's exactly what they're doing. They homeschool their children. They're not taking them to mainstream schools. And as a result, they're able to implicate ideas that we are failing to do, Tina. So those are my questions.
All right. Fundisi, you got your work cut out right now. Listen, you're taking us through. Thank you so much to everyone. And I want to acknowledge all the presence of the Facebook family that are sending messages on Facebook. Thank you so much. We'll be reading some of them, Lwazia. We noted what you said, Smiso. We also noted what you said. I'm going to be reading some of the comments here, and also the people that are sending comments here and the comments that are being said. Really appreciate it. Fundis, there you go.
You know, I'm glad we're discussing this point. 5, 10, 20, 40 years ago would not have been in this, because the models of that time were uniform, the generations were generally conservative, the politics was either this or that, there was black and white reality. Today we live in a multicultural, multicolored epistemology, even inside the church. The greatest tragedy we face as Adventists in Africa, particularly South Africa, is that we've got a church here that has rebelled against Christian education. These questions come from the fact that we've been alienly influenced by dogmas that come from semi or full satanic ideologies. That's one of the reasons. We have more questions than answers now, because we have never been given the true holistic model. Many of us have been deprived of Christian education, not by themselves, but by a church that uses tithe to fund atheistic education in public schools through salaries of pastors. I'm totally against this. They are able to take their key. Fine, let me leave that one. But here's the point. We have this whole discussion now lands on your age group as you discuss. Our adults are quiet because they think, those who might be listening, what's this whole thing they're discussing? Look, they forget that their time is gone. Their epistemic era is gone. Their political era is gone. But they are living into your time because God has not allowed conditions to allow them to sleep. Right. So we have a church now that has more questions than answers, and no one is providing the correct answers because all of us are pulling this way. Each one is pulling his own string in this blanket, and everyone thinks that his string is the total blanket. You get the point, right? Christianity owes itself biblical truth. This is one of the fundamental statements of Tubing. Christianity needs it owes itself biblical truth and consistency. Christianity is not totally truthful, and it is not totally consistent. First, because it has come to us multi-denominationally. There's Catholic truth, there's Methodist truth, there's Anglican truth, there's Adventist truth, there's Reformed truth within Adventism. There are Reformative movements, Lutheran truth, all these things. And I think the devil made it a plan that Christianity should come here from many families, each one having his own Lord, Archbishop, and whatever, speaking one thing. Ultimately, Adventism arrives here as a weak, humble, fearful, non-political, exclusionist, isolated epistemology, and we are drunk with biblical rightness. We are not right. We simply have found convenience in the truth that we are speaking, but it is now being challenged by external and internal conditions. You get the point? Do you want me to tell you what the German Adventists did to Jews in Germany? The story is shocking, but let me tell it on another day. Now, so we have got all of us alien epistemology. I don't care how much you've read Ellen White. I don't care how many times you've read the Bible through. If you have received your education from public schools, you are tainted with secularism in your thinking. Jews never went to public schools. Jews never went to public schools. They were paganized by conditions around them, but they always went to the synagogue to be taught. So Adventists are never going to have no questions as long as we do not have a uniform education system in which we educate our children. The reason why all these questions comes and all these doubts and deviations and dissections exist is that all of us have been exposed to multivarious atheistic public evolutionist education. That's the first thing. Secondly, democracy is not God's model. God never announced that human beings will rule themselves, particularly after the fall, because humanity cannot rule itself. It can only misgovern itself and in the process harm God's nature and creation. That's what democracy has done. Democracy is not a biblical principle. God never allowed human beings to run themselves because we don't have the capacity in ourselves as sinners to be ultimate arbiters of our lives. That's why we can't bury ourselves. We have to be buried. And that's why we can't give that to ourselves. We have to be born. Only God cannot be ruled by others because he's the ultimate ruler. Where he came from, I don't know. It's a question that will make your brain bleed because he is older than 6,000 years. He's older than anything around, and I don't know where they come from. Right, let's go. So we need to admit that we're asking serious questions inside a church that does not have total truth. It has some truth, but not total truth. Because there are questions this church is not ready to answer. Because it has moved in various countries and behaved dissimilarly. Let me tell you, the church in America oppressed Black Adventists. It did. They were excluded from Adventist schools when they were white, excluded from hospitals, they were excluded everywhere. They were even excluded from leadership. Which is why Black Adventists are different from us. They fully engaged in the civil rights movement. But in South Africa, don't follow the Mandelas, don't follow the Tutus. That is the paganism, it's worldliness, and so on. And we've been given a very defiled micro-Adventism here, which cannot develop even this church, let alone the rest of the world. So we have a struggle here that relates to what were we told? Who told us? What did he tell us? How much of the truth did he tell us? How much of the lie mixed with the truth? So the challenge lies at the center. And your generation, Mr. Program Director, is the one that is well placed now with your education and observations and articulations and the technology we have now to bounce questions that are right, because my generation asked the wrong questions. And that's why we got the wrong answers. And those answers are crushing all of us now. Humanity, until Jesus returns, will always have incomplete models. There's no model that will be perfect, even within democracy, because democracy is not a biblical principle. God allowed it in the dimension of sin, but with conscience-ridden conditionalities, because democracy can also go very wide. Democracy allows lesbianism, which is condemned in the Bible, homosexuality, which is condemned in the Bible. Democracy allows rights that we may consider unbiblical, right? Fine. So we have to walk like people who are walking on eggshells now, because we don't have a complete picture of who we are, what we have, because the leaders have not defined that. They come from another colonial age. They think that your generation is naughty, is poking eyes into the GC, the union, the pastors, and so on, and even poking its fingers into God himself. Adventists have failed to give answers to the present generation of young people, primarily because, number one, we surrender to public education. I don't care what you think. Any nation that is educated by another nation will always be miseducated. We have no control over the education system because we allowed government to infiltrate Adventist education, and we don't have schools. The TOC has shut down 17 schools since 1955. Do you know that? We don't have schools. So who's schooling us? Where do some of these questions come from? They come from the fact that we got our meals, intellectual, epistemic, or knowledge meals from our next door neighbors. And so we're bringing questions that don't belong to the home stew. But the home stew is also toxic because it was brewed by ingredients from a secularistic, atheistic, sometimes even communistic and paganistic world. Which is why pastors from Helderberg are unable to deal with the questions you pastors are raising here, because even in that school, there are things that are not perfect. The next thing, we move from globalism in today's world, mixed with variant epistemologies. There's no central voice in Adventism. There's an American voice, there's an African voice, there are liberal voices within African Adventism, there are conservative voices, there are traditional voices, there are those who are voiceless, who don't know what's happening. There are those who say, no, I'm here because of convenience. At some time, I'm going to leave because this is not the train I needed. I thought would take me to my destination. So what we need ultimately to discuss is why we failed as a church to tell the whole truth to our children. That's the question we must face now. And by the way, I'm going to share something very sensitive here. And my mind is doubtful if I need to say it here, because it might cause a revolution that that many people may not be able to contain. These questions arise only within the African church. They don't exist in the white Adventist community. Do you know that? You may not know this. These questions are not Adventist questions. They are Black Adventist questions. Because the church allowed itself to be deceived by British colonialism and African apartheid. Some of us who went to academic institutions of the church and who function there know this very, very well. We don't have a pure church here. So youth will have these agendas ad infinitum into the future because the church has failed to capture education. It has surrendered you to the intellectual epistemic abattoirs of the world. And that's where your theories and questions are cooked, in those abattoirs, where you are turned like meat being fried this way and that way. And you come back to the church to ask questions. Some of these questions should be asked to the owners of the abattoir, because this church is unable to create its own abattoir. So we can ask these questions. We can even provide temporary answers here, but they will not be the total truth. They'll not be the total truth. What we need here is an Adventist multiculturalist model that will speak to all these dimensional questions, these problematic questions. We need to move now like a train meandering in a forest where the route is not straight, but bending this way and that way, because you can't write a straight line today. In the histories of nations, there are no straight lines. There are crooked lines, even broken lines. There are even exclamation marks. I'm bothered by the questions because I've been thinking about these things myself on my own, but we may provide answers in this program, but they'll not be the ultimate answer. That's why I've proposed that we need to have a conference and deal with these things and produce a document that we shall release to the world and to the church. African people don't write, they speak. That's one of their problems. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Funis, for that one. Much appreciated. So I think generally speaking, as we glide towards the end of our program, we are of the opinion that we should get into political issues. We should be intimately involved. Maybe that begs and answers the question that says, should Christians vote? Maybe the answer should be yes, we should. If we're voting for the freedom of worship, freedom of movement, against crime, against whatsoever, it's a community project. We should be intimately involved in all of that. We cannot want a free society that we're not involved in the making of that particular free society. And that's beautiful. That's coming through. Now, are we ever going to get to a point, and just in case, and this I'm asking to everyone, are we ever going to get to a point where we're saying to ourselves, the church will understand the political ideology or its political mandate to the community? If not, then what should an aspiring political Adventist do to maneuver his way while at the same time maintaining his Christian hold as a Seventh-day Adventist? And this is said from the backdrop of what Charles, one of our speakers, said, that there's this constant backlash on anyone who desires to go to the political route. Only until you're the president do they suddenly give you eyes and ears. Only when you got the most powerful office in that particular country do they suddenly give you eyes and ears. So how then do we deal with it here as a church here? Andrew's got a question. I'm going to give it over to you, Andrew, coming through from Jamaica. And you said, Andrew, that before you come through, as I'm unmuting you, you said in Jamaica, Adventism is big. I think you said this, the biggest church in Jamaica. Then you say to us as well that even the governor and I think the prime minister are Adventists. Tell us more about that question that you have. Go ahead, my man. I'm unmuting you right there, Andrew from Jamaica.
Hi again. Yes, so, I just wanted to confirm that, yes, the Seventh-day Adventist Church is the most powerful, the largest church in Jamaica, and we are well resourced. We have private hospital well established. We have universities here well established. The Governor General, the first family, was a pastor. The first family, the Prime Minister, his wife, they're Adventists. So the Adventist Church is well established, well recognized, well resourced in Jamaica. So that's one thing.
Petri.
And so my question is, and this is a burning question, why doesn't the Adventist Church have a law school? If we are so passionate about Sunday law and persecution, then shouldn't we have the best lawyers? Shouldn't we have the best constitutional attorneys and so on? Why doesn't the Adventist Church have a law school? They'll have every other school, but not one law school. But the Catholic Church has many law schools. Why is that? And nobody can seem to give me an answer up to this point. They'll say we don't have the money. I don't know how true that is. Why doesn't the Adventist Church have a law school or believe in that function or that capacity?
All right. Thank you so much, Andrew, for that question. Mfundis is busy with the charter issue situation. So he's asking, why doesn't the Adventist Church have a law school in order to defend its particular members when it comes to issues of constitutional rights, whether it's religious liberty and all those kind of things? Why shouldn't we be involved in such a very important aspect of defending the people there. So while at it with Andrew's question, Miss D had asked about, you see, we speak of Ellen White, and those that are coming in for the first time may not be part of our church mainstream. Ellen White is a prophetess that we believe in, that she has written many books that we believe in, that we read as Seventh-day Adventists. In fact, when it comes to your baptismal vows, one of them says, do you believe in the writings of Ellen White? And you lift up your right hand and say you do. And then Miss D had spoken across the idea that, as in, Ellen White says no politics. But the Bible seems to be very political. In fact, the backdrop and the background of the Bible is purely political. Kings, priests, prophets, right? Statesmen, clergy, and all those kind of people that were there. All these people up there in those positions form the backdrop of the Bible. So then how is it then? What do we do? What do we do? Who do we listen to? We believe she comes from, she speaks things from God, but isn't that contradictory? Who's the bigger light? What do we do in such a situation? That was the question that was asked by Miss D as well. And then Mfundisi also brought the idea, so then what do we do now as a church? Now that we know this, how do we further pursue a political agenda in the safety of the church setting? Is it possible that we can create a church from here onwards? Because your generation, you said, asked the wrong questions. We are asking the right ones right now. And then we're saying, after asking the question, what is the action that we can take? If people are going to form a political party, are we going to form a political party for Adventists? What are we doing? Where are we going with all of this? All right, go ahead, Mfundisi. I'm going to unmute you right now. Go ahead. I've unmuted you. Please accept that. Let me try that again. I had muted you the time when you're asking for the charger. Mfundisi. Okay, yes, there you go.
Let me start with the last question, the Ellen White one. Ellen White is the most misunderstood character in Africa because we've been fed Ellen White by pastors who read her in piecemeal, not the totality of Ellen White. The history of Ellen White that I know, the books that I've read, the literature that I've read, present a prophet, a servant of God who was holistically concerned with the welfare of people, and in particular those of a darker class. There are statements that Ellen White makes that seem to move you into the direction of, was she valid? Did she have a valid answer there? A number of them need to be explained contextually, but we're not running an Ellen White seminar today. I'm not going to give all the answers. I do run Ellen White seminars, and then I go into the whole spectrum of her political thinking. Number one, let me just state a few things. Ellen White was anti-slavery. She engaged in anti-slavery. Adventists were engaged. There's a woman called Miss Sojourner Truth, who was an Adventist, a leader in the anti-slavery movement. She moved dangerously across America into Canada, pulling slaves from slavery at night and so hiding there to give her the name Black Moses, because so that she could be, they had identity as a woman would be hidden. Just go to Google and look for Black Moses. You're going to find Sojourner Truth, and her grave is buried. I think she is buried either in the Oakwood University graveside or outside of that university. And so you need to understand that in as far as justice issues are concerned, early Adventists like your John Butlers, the founders of this church, who were Quakers, were highly anti-slavery. It was a later generation of whites who moved into the church and became the fathers of this, who started thinking in racial terms, to the extent that Black Adventists were not allowed in white Adventist hospitals. One of them died on the way from an Adventist hospital to a Black one because they had thought she was white because of her complexion. They discovered that she was Black and then released her, and she died on the way. It was a scandalous story. So you need to know that our church has had a very rugged history in North America. I won't go into other details, but here is the point. We need to meet as a Black church, not in sessions, outside of sessions, which is why I propose that we have a specific a congress among ourselves, so that I can deliver to you both literature and ideologies that have moved into Adventism then and now, and what Adventist scholars overseas now think. Let me tell you another thing that Adventist scholars agreed upon now globally, that the missionaries who came here made blunders. The General Conference sent the wrong missionaries to Africa, and that's why the church is not to grow here. But it can only be grown by foreigners. It can only be grown by us who know the nitty-gritty of the challenges we're facing. So for now, I'm giving you that half answer about Ellen White. Let's not throw her out with the bathwater, but let's take it. I'm going to suggest in the course of time, if you talk to me, text that we can read so that we can form a uniform idea about her. Remember also that even while she was a seer, a prophet, she was also a human being. There were points at which she erred in her own life, but when she was under inspiration, God gave her the valid truth. That's my first long answer. The next thing is, what should we do? One, because we need solutions now. We need to commit the current young generation to Adventist Christian education, not the education that we see run by Adventists in this country. It is very racially based and so on, and it is fractured, which is why some of us never took our kids to those schools, because we diagnosed them and found that there were weaknesses in those schools. So that is the next thing we need to do. We need a valid biblical epistemology that will address the African question. Two, we need a valid Adventist Christian education, biblically based and not based on the sociology of the world, sociology of whiteness and so on. Three, we also need a missional model to witness to Africans. It will include what we do in the area of politics, what we do in the area of education, what we do in the area of economy. Many Adventists don't own businesses, and yet the Jews we read about in the Bible were economically self-sufficient. Jesus never bought from a Pakistani shop. No, he bought from fellow Jews. Everything in the Bible is an economy around what it means to be a Jew. They erred as human beings, but even today, Jews are still one. Should I go to number 5?
Yeah, I'm fully.
So. Is there a question I'm missing?
No, I think probably you've answered everything, except I think when the time when Endo was asking the issue to do with why don't we own a law school that can be used as a tool? Yes, please do.
Let me tell you, it is because we've got a wrong view of law. When I was young, lawyers were liars. That's what this church told us. Lawyers were liars. Then one day we asked at college, why is the church manual designed by lawyers? They could not give us the answer was wishy-washy, and we're saying, no, you guys have been telling us a lie. Look, there's nobody who is not a liar. Politicians lie, theologians lie, the president lies, the church president can also tell a lie, the pastor can lie, your parent can lie. All of us are liars. It is not lawyers only. By the way, lying is the most common sin in the world. More than theft, lying. We even lie to our own selves, which is why the devil is called a liar more than any other thing, because a lie is the greatest evil that all of us commit. We need to stop lying. This is what somebody is writing now. I don't know.
Stop lying.
Theologians don't lie, they lie. Where do we get Sunday keeping from?
Beautiful. So I think, Andrew, we a wrong view of the law. And I think let's just agree that we are at a position of influence now. Yes. Having learned such kind of things, this is what we do then. We go out there and influence. We as a church, as the leaders of the church, because now our generation is now the elders of the church. Our generation is now the head elders. We're now the deacons. We're now into the positions of influence in the church. We can try this. We can do it and have influence out there into the community, a Jesus that they know, because Jesus also had issues to do. He was a political commentator at one point. To Caesar what belongs to Caesar, to God what belongs to God. Paul speaks a lot about the issues to do with politics, obey the laws of the land, says Paul. All these things because they were existing within the context of a political environment. And here we are, and that's why I said in the beginning, is post-COVID. maybe not fully, but post-COVID, we were dealt a heavy hand by politics, and religion was subservient to politics. It bowed down to politics. We were told in the history of all churches that there will be no church for a good 4 or 5 months. Things that have never happened to any of us here, because politics has power. So if it is that kind of power, we tap into it as religious people, and we become the Daniels and the Josephs and the Mordecais of that particular time. And for such a time as this, the Bible says, for such a time as this, we could be of influence out there. And that could be the general thing that God has probably brought us out for. Maybe right here on this platform lies our next president. Right here on this platform could be the next governor, could be the next biggest thing in politics, in whatever sector you can be. And all that coupled with religion and Christian ethics and all that becomes such a powerful concoction and such a powerful representation of what God wants us to do. Now, Mfundisi, thank you so much, because this has been such a fruitful discussion. I want to read something from what Uleni, the Facebook family, you guys have been wonderful. Thank you for staying through as well. Mfundisi, while I'm looking for the comments, be thinking about the issues of decolonization. I think that was one of the questions that were asked here about how do we decolonize then this whole issue here in Africa. Lenny Mine says, I for one don't think that the pastor meant we should go and join political parties. He spoke about living holistically, meaning the fact that you are living under a government, that you are already in politics. I think that what he meant was we need not to be silent on issues happening in our communities, in our countries. So I don't think we should not leave, and I don't think we should now leave and go and join political parties. I believe we can still be influential without being a party. And I think one of our, thank you so much, Lenny Mine, for that. One of our commentators here, or comments that came through from Uputukuku here, was bringing to lines of how we should rise above the normal ideology that we have as Adventists, and then start making sure that we become politically intelligent, for lack of a better word. We try to involve ourselves in all of this. Issues to do with social justice must come first on the table of Adventists. Before we speak about the Holy Communion, before we speak about the beast in Revelation, why don't we just speak about social issues that we have here? Jesus' method then says that he fed them, then after that he cared about them, he was concerned about, then he said, follow me. Concerns about issues to do with justice and politics could be a beautiful platform where we can now address justice issues, people being raped out there, people being killed, issues to do with xenophobia, hatred amongst illegal immigrants, all those kind of things can all be placed on the political plate, and Christians eating from that plate could be quite influential. So I personally have learned quite a lot. SK probably be our last one, Mfundisi. We're thinking about how to decolonize. You'll close up on that one there. SK, take us through, my man. Be our last speaker. Thank you so much, family, for staying as long as you've done. Politics and religion was our discussion. SK.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, my brother.
Yes.
Yo, Mfundisi, thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity. As I'm thinking, just looking back at my Adventism experience, I'm realizing we have a big problem. This one of politics is just a small problem. I've worshipped in different churches. I think I've changed my membership 6 times now. Now, not running away from things, just
please change it for the 7th time. Then it will be perfect.
Yeah, it is mainly work related.
Okay.
Thing. Now, I worshipped where it was predominantly South Africans and few foreigners, and there was a bit of struggle that between South Africans and foreigners. That church politics and how understanding of the Bible and all that, some think that they understand the Bible better than the other nation and all that. And then I also worshipped in a church where it's predominantly Zimbabweans. And yeah, you could see that if you are a South African in that church, you would feel the pressure that you are less, you are not even close to being holy. They are holier than you. You know. I've also worshipped in a church where it's only foreigners. Now it will be you see the fight is between the Ndebeles and the Shonas, and it's just terrible. It's just terrible. Now to think of such people coming into politics that influences the whole world, maybe the whole country. I see that we are very far. This one of politics is, hey, we're not even ready to get there. Otherwise, we'll eat each other. Like so far, I'm worshiping in some church, and it's full of white people and foreigners as well. Mostly it's white people and they are foreigners, and it's more peaceful. It's more peaceful. I don't know whether it's because they understand that we are we're different, from different cultures and what. But hey, in the black churches that I've worshipped, there is always this politics, and I think we have a bigger problem than before we even entertain politics. We must first entertain how we treat each other as black people. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, SK, for that one. How we treat each other as black people, how we treat each other as brethren. Fundisi, give us some deliverables, and also please do talk about the issues of how we can decolonize. And after that, I'll give over to the announcements of the day. Next week, what's happening? Next week, what's happening? Over and over again till we end. Fundisi, take us.
Thank you very much. I'm glad we opened the can on this thing. We've not closed the can. We still have a stinking product. We need to clean the can and then put in the correct stuff to chew for our future generations. I want to make a proposal as I close that we hold a physical conference or convention, and not be too many, not more than 50 people, for instance, where we can discuss some of these things with the goal of developing a document that will be a way forward. Because one of the things whites have done, they've created documentation for all their truths and lies. We read about this, we read these things in history and in economics, and also the problem with black people is that they're leaving no mark, they're marking time without leaving any marks on time. And all we do is to make eulogies and funerals of a man who's already dead, and within less than a generation, we've forgotten who he was, what he did, and so on. And distortions move into the story. Let's stop what our parents did. They did not write. Let's create literature now. Let's create literature now. This church is throwing literature at us. What are we throwing back at the church? So that's my major a proposition today, this afternoon, that let's call one another to a meeting sooner than later and work out a process that will become an educational endeavor to influence thought and practice in the Black church in particular. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much. We have a revolution. Mantoa says to us here, are we ready? Is the church leadership ready for such a revelation? Ready or not? Here we come. So we're going to try to do our best to ensure that we become influential and to make sure that our generation and the generations to come understand the importance of what it means then. One of the issues to do with what Andrew said was like, politics will be used as the vehicle for oppression of Christians in time to come, which is not so far from now. True, Andrew, that would be it. But let's try our best to be involved in what Christianly is possible for all of us. If all entire nation was saved by a political figure, Joseph, a Christian man, Daniel, a Christian man, Mordecai, a Christian man, you could be your next, or the next Daniel, the next Mordecai, the next Joseph, the next Esther, the next big thing, and you could be of influence out there. All right, do what we need to do, people. Thank you so much for coming through. This particular month, remember the title of the theme says religion and the world. Religion and the world. And so today was about politics and religion. What's coming up next week? Oh, yes, I'm not sharing the screen in front. This is just to finish this up here. So upcoming program. This was today with Pastor Thula Nkosi, phenomenal man. Even Andrew from Jamaica says, you know what? Excellent speaker. And he was glad that he came through. We feel the same. And I think a bulk of us feel the same as well. Mr. Mpofu, not Mr., but Professor Shepherd Mpofu. Next week, we talked about race. We're talking about racism and religion. Phenomenal man that's going to come through as well as we talk about racism and religion. Then religion and the LGBTQI plus community. Taking us through on such a very, very sensitive issue as we speak about religion and LGBTQI plus there. Now, we wanted this, we thinking more about this and deliberating with the team. Want this to be a part 1, part 2, but then we'll think about it and decide. But as it stands tentatively, it's going to be part 1, and that's just basically it. So he will have to do his best then. Then on the 30th of April, we're speaking everything to do with spiritualism, or rather religion and spiritualism. We talk about witchcraft. We talk about people hearing things in their head, people going through demonic things, things that are subtle that we live with. So we talk about that on this particular topic on the 30th of April. Then May is all about money and the relationship that we have with it. We start off with our entrepreneur, Mr. Oshakarisa. Phenomenal. I met this man last week. Phenomenal man that he is, as he speaks about entrepreneurship, the practical guide. Note that the Wall of May is about the money encounter. That will be the title. Please do invite as many people as possible. These discussions are quite helpful and Christian in their touch and tone as well. So 7 May, entrepreneurship, the practical guide. 14 May, tithe and offering, me, the church, and money. 21 May, Black poverty, personal experience. Then money and its classes, how broke are you not, on the 28th of May, right there. Interesting things that are coming up. We're going to have, and just so you may know, because you spoke about issues to do with us meeting, we as 230 Conversations are planning a very face-to-face kind of program, and we're dealing with and we're still planning it. Probably it will be the end of May, if possible, a very much face-to-face program, a 230 Conversations Sabbath. That's what we're planning with. And there's a couple of churches that we're working with. As soon as that is all done and dusted, we'll invite everyone to come. There'll be singing groups in the morning. Then in the afternoon, we do what we do, which is a live discussion, and we're going to have fun. So let's all do what we need to do. Let's pray in front of this. Pray for us, please. Pray for our political aspirations. Pray for those that are involved in it. Pray for the safety of all countries, and that Jesus Christ, the political king, will come and rule over us and take us through to a heaven where there is no more crying, no sorrow, no pain, no tears. Fundisi, pray for us.
Father, this afternoon, we thank you for the opportunity to glimpse into a wide expanse of issues impacting on us as Africans, also as Christians. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunity we've had to exchange opinions and convictions on a matter that is embattling the whole of South African Christianity. Be with us now as we masticate these things in our different ways. Bless this program. I'm glad, Lord, that youth are alive to the realities of our time. Keep them safe. May the planning be a success. Bless the leader and those who work with him. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, amen, and amen. Thank you for this, please. Thank you so much. Ubandile, your son, did well exceptionally in trying to find you when we thought we had lost you. So also send our gratitude to him, Bandile Siabonga, and thank you so much, everyone, for coming through here. Now that we're done with the program, Mfundisi, you are free to go. You can go have your lunch, your sunch, if you can. And then to the rest of us here, thank you, family, for coming through. It's cold in South Africa. It's so cold right now in South Africa. Particularly, yeah, I think everywhere in South Africa is pretty cold. So we're trying to get ourselves warm and all. Fundis is out now. I've muted him. What we can do now, I'm going to stop the live stream on Facebook. Facebook family, thank you so much. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the Zoom link, send it on Facebook. We're going to have what is called the after sins, which is just, talking more about this, maybe for 5-10 minutes. I'm going to send the link on Facebook now for those that want to come back into Zoom just to talk more about these issues. And then I'm going to stop the live stream. Please do note that this program will be uploaded on our YouTube channel by end of day tomorrow. Latest though should be Monday, or even I could do it now, thinking that I probably have a bit of some time. I could do it now while we are doing the after sins. Thank you so much. God bless you. We'll take it up on that one. All right, good. I'm stopping the live stream.